Och nu ska vi få inspiration och lite nycklar till hur vi kan göra för att verkligen vara utanför våra gränser. Det handlar om business without borders. Och vi ska få träffa en person som verkligen personifierar det här med det globala tänkandet. Han har bott i 6 länder. Han har jobbat i ännu fler. Han har jobbat med startups, många olika typer av startups. 2014 då började han på Facebook i Singapore, flyttade till Dublin och leder idag teamet för små och medelstora bolag för Facebook i Sverige och Finland, och det gör han ifrån Dublin. Och nu ska han ge oss sina bästa tips. Och för att verkligen få oss att tänka internationellt och hur lätt det är så kör han sin presentation på engelska. Mina damer och herrar, ge en rungande varm applåd för Henrik van den Worm.
Tack så mycket.
Välkommen hit.
Tack. Hej. Okay, so actually I am going to do this presentation in English. This is partly my fault. I was here a year ago and I stood on this stage and I thought this is the international stage. So this is where all the international guests come and hear the international speakers. So I prepared everything as I did last year in English. And when I arrived here this morning, they're like, you're doing it in Swedish, right? And I was like, maybe not. But I'm going to talk to you about cross-border business. It's a topic that's becoming ever more important for us at Facebook. It's something that has existed for a long time, but it kind of feels like we're just finally highlighting it for the first time. As Anna mentioned, I'm Henrik van den Worm. I'm actually Swedish-Dutch. My surname is absolutely not Swedish. My first name actually is. I manage the small and medium business team out of Dublin, and we work with businesses of all sizes across the Nordics. It can be large businesses, it can be small businesses. Really, our goal is just to help as many of these businesses as possible to get more value from Facebook. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the connected world that we live in, what this means for businesses, and how we at Facebook can help, and showcase some of the tools that we're building to make it easier for businesses to take their business cross-border. So let's start with today's connected world. More than ever, the world is connected. We are seeing the trend that's really, people are getting much more globally engaged than ever, and this is happening because of 2 major shifts. One is the movement of people, and the other is the movement of ideas. Both of these have always, throughout history, been intertwined and linked. But the big change that we're seeing is there's an acceleration of the movement of people, and there's also an acceleration of the movement of ideas. In the last 15 years, the number of people who have moved internationally and migrated has increased by 41%. And the reasons for this today are the reasons that they've always been. It can be economic, it can be personal, and it can be political. And probably in the future, it'll even be environmental. The other side of this, if you think about the movement of ideas, ideas that create trends, they happen today much faster than they have at any other point in history. If I take a photo or an article or a video, it can create a global demand for products in a matter of days. Those products can be picked up, replicated, and sold on the internet, sold in the streets in a matter of weeks. The most clear example I can take of this is the spinner. The spinner was the toy of the year in 2017. I don't know if anybody here ever bought the spinner. I didn't buy it. I didn't get what it was really for. I'm also probably not the target group that was actually out there to buy the spinner. But the spinner, it basically showed up on social media, and within a very, very short period of time, they were being sold out on Amazon. They were being sold out on Alibaba. And actually, to this day, nobody really knows how many spinners have been sold, but they put the number at somewhere around 50 million spinners sold last year. At one point in May of 2017, 20% of all the toys sold in the United States were actually fidget spinners. So the idea, it grew on social media, and it was very, very quickly transported into a product and sold on the streets and on the internet and on mobile phones across the entire world. The virality of this has all been fueled by the mobile phone, which has been connected to the internet. And globalization is becoming personal. 1 in 2 people actually see themselves as a global citizen or in some way can relate to being a global citizen. I'm definitely one of those people. 900 million people have international connections on social media. So what's happening is that global citizens have become global consumers. I'm a complete and utter, if cross-border business was a person, I would probably be that person. I've lived in a bunch of different countries. I'm Swedish, I'm Dutch, I'm married to a Spanish woman. My 2.5-year-old is very, I mean, when he grows up, he'll be very confused about his own identity. He's Swedish, Spanish, Dutch, but he lives in Ireland, so he's learning English at daycare. His idea of identity is not grounded in one single place. And as he grows up and gets older, he'll have a very global view about his own identity. I'm sure of that. So entrepreneurs are also not sleeping on this. They are thinking much, much more about business without borders. Of course, there are limitations that still exist. Of course, you have logistics and payment solutions that need to make this possible. But more and more what we are seeing is that businesses are thinking without borders. And if we go back to kind of the evolution of shopping, it's really come an incredibly long way. The rule of stores was kind of the dominant way of buying products for a very, very long time. In the 90s came the birth of e-commerce. And suddenly in the 2000s, everybody had to think about omni-channel strategies. And we're actually kind of still there. Omni-channel is still very much a prominent strategy for a lot of retailers. But we're moving. We're moving, and we're kind of getting to a tipping point where mobile first is going to be the dominant driver of commerce, and especially the dominant driver of e-commerce. Now, the future is interesting. The future could be any number of things. But I'm really happy to see that every time I go to a conference, I see more and more VR headsets at conferences. And this is something that actually, we're definitely not there yet, but there's more and more partners building technology that we think is going to be extremely interesting, especially for retail. So VR is a huge potential as well. By 2020, mobile is estimated to make up 50% of retail e-commerce in the United Kingdom. And the rest of Europe will pretty much follow that same pace. So we know that the world is going mobile. We know that entrepreneurs are starting to think mobile first. And I wanted to highlight somebody that works in my team who really just represents this kind of mindset. If I can click. This is Kusha. Kusha is 25 years old. He graduated from Handels last year. And he works in the SMB team in Dublin at Facebook. When he was at Handels and he was finishing his studies, he wanted to build a business. In fact, most of those guys built businesses, it turned out. And he wanted to focus on a passion that he has. And his passion is working out and fitness. So he built a brand. And in a very modern way, he spelt it in a way that I couldn't even understand, let alone Google search. But he told me it's called Silverback. And so he came up with the concept over the course of a weekend, and he started to do research. And he used all of the kind of resources that are available to anybody who wants to start an e-commerce shop or website that's available to them now. And basically, within a week, he had singled out that the shaker was going to be his go-to product, and he had sourced some shakers in China. He came up with branding with his friends on his laptop, and he got going. He built a website over the course of a weekend, made it mobile optimized, started an Instagram presence, and opened a page on Facebook for his business. Everything that he does is thinking mobile first. All the customers that he goes after are probably and primarily on mobile, but they're also not in one single location. He goes for customers wherever they are in the world. He doesn't care. And the mobile phone is one of his primary tools to making his business successful. This product here is actually his best-selling product, and that's his girlfriend in the ad. And I've asked permission to show this ad, but it is unbelievable how easy this can go. So he basically creates a boomerang, puts some text on it, and boosts it with a bit of money in terms of just advertising. He films it over the course of an afternoon, and this is a product. It's a legging that has pockets for your mobile phone, and he sells hundreds and hundreds of these every week. He works on this business in the evenings and in the weekends, and he works at Facebook during the week all the other times. He has an $800 phone that he does everything with, and he has free or very cheap apps that he does all his editing with. This is how he creates content. This is how he brings content into the world. His advantage is that he has absolutely no fear. He goes for the opportunity and doesn't see boundaries. And he's an incredibly creative guy. And he's been very successful. And he understands that more and more consumers are desiring goods from abroad. There's hundreds of millions of people that are already taking part in cross-border commerce. And we see that by 2022, this is a piece of Forrester research, 20% of e-commerce will be cross-border, with sales of up to $600 billion. So it's not actually that big now. It's not that big a part of the pie, but it's going to be fueled in the coming years. And the thing that's going to fuel this is, of course, the adoption of the mobile phone. The mobile phone has been extremely influential. You can't play it down enough, because every time a new person gets access to the internet for the first time now, they're probably doing that on a mobile phone. What's happening then is we're kind of moving from this state of very traditional trade routes. If you think about the US and the UK, that's a trade route that's existed for hundreds and thousands of years. But now we're starting to see that there's all these interesting online commerce links happening, and really between countries that actually you'd never really think would happen. Indonesians show a huge interest in buying products from France. Russians show a huge interest in buying products from Japan. And this phenomenon is really sweeping the globe. And the mobile phone is the catalyst of all of this happening. So where previously there was the importance of physical location and labor, we're now moving to just knowledge being one of the most important differentiators that you can have. If you wanted to expand in the old world, expanding meant finding new office space. It meant sourcing new suppliers. It meant hiring people in those local countries. And it was complicated. And of course, you couldn't do it overnight. There was months of planning. And nowadays, if you think about it, it's just really easy to take a product and find audiences all over the world who are just interested in buying your product, no matter where it is. So what is the business opportunity? I'm going to talk about a few things that I think are quite relevant here. One, you want to be where the people are. Two, embrace the shift to new formats and platforms. And three, take your business global. Let's start with the first one. There are 70 million businesses currently on Facebook and 25 million businesses on Instagram. So there's a lot of people already seeing value on these two platforms. Back in July of last year, we had 15 million businesses on Instagram, and that's already increased by 10 million in a very short space of time. There's 2 billion people that access Facebook every month, and 1.2 billion of those people have a connection to at least one business in a foreign country. So there's a large existing connection between businesses and people all over the world that already exists. There are 80 million people around the world who have contact with at least one business on Facebook in Sweden. And 84% of the people who access Facebook every month here in Sweden are connected to at least one business. So there's a huge opportunity. It's actually really under-leveraged at the moment. And it's something that, with the tools that we're developing, hopefully it'll be easier for more businesses to just think global and go global. The next part I want to talk about is the embrace to shift to new platforms. Because once you connect with those people, you need to make sure that you're connecting to them not only on the right platform, but in the right way. And there's three trends that I see kind of being primarily important here. One is video, the second is messaging, and the third is this fundamental shift that's happening to stories. Stories of all kinds. Not only Instagram stories, but basically stories is a new format that I'll dive into a little bit more in a second. But let's talk about video. Video is kind of where we are right now. A lot of people are making the shift from using photos and images with text to thinking about how they can do video better on Facebook and Instagram and these kind of platforms. There's a couple of things we know. We know that about almost 80% of all mobile data traffic will be video in a couple of years. And more consumers are saying that they'd rather see video than photos and text to research products. The thing that we always hear from clients is, well, doing video is complicated. Taking a photo and posting a post is much easier. But we have some clients that are getting really savvy at this, and they are starting to just basically combine still images to create a moving image feeling, and it really does work very, very well. Across the consumer journey, we're developing video products that hopefully will help our customers to be more successful using moving images to drive sales, to generate demand, and to acquire customers. We've got ads like collection ads, where you can highlight videos with products underneath. We've got lead ads and mobile app ads that really do a great job of acquiring customers. And then dynamic ads, which are automatically generated ads, they are now shifting from being primarily photo-based to now also being moving image-based. And it's just a much more pleasant experience for our customers to see moving images, even dynamic moving images. And it really does help to drive the bottom of the funnel. The next platform is messaging. It is the daily home of communication. It's nothing new. In terms of consumers, it's being used every single day. The challenge has been that businesses don't know how to fit in to a platform which is growing and growing in usage and time spent. It's the go-to platform communicating with loved ones, with friends, for making plans. And it's gone from just being sharing photos and text to being video, to being video calling, to being much, much more than that. It's a massive shift. Globally, we see that 80% of adults and 91% of teens use a messaging platform of some kind every single day. So if you know that 91% of teenagers are here every single day, as a business, how do I participate in this space? And how do I do it in a way that still creates value for the people who are using these products and love using these products? Well, there's some good news there, because a lot of what we see is that the expectations for businesses are also changing. More and more people would rather message a business than pick up the phone or send an email. And there's a very clear reason for this. It's because if you do automation and if you do bots really, really well, you actually create a better experience for the customer. I can give you a very real-world example. I was in Amsterdam and I was stranded from a snowstorm, and all the flights from KLM were canceled. And I knew that KLM had a case study about being one of the first partners on Facebook to create a bot in Messenger. So I opened Messenger, and I searched KLM in my Messenger, and I connected with them as a business. I had already tried to call them on the phone, and it was completely pointless. All the lines were overrun. You couldn't get through to anybody. And basically, after ringing for 30 seconds, it would just hang up. So it's not a great experience when you're stranded, you want to get back home, and nobody's talking to you. So what the Messenger bot does really nicely, and this is very early days, but what it does nicely is it at least starts a line of communication with you. I texted through the Messenger bot that I got canceled, and this is my flight information. And about 10 seconds later, I get a bot reply saying, I'm so sorry to hear that that happened to you. We will do everything we can to rebook you. Now, it sounded so human. I was kind of taken aback and thought, is this actually a bot talking to me or not? Then I started to get much more auto-generated replies, and I started to realize that I'm just chatting away to a bot and getting really frustrated. But the idea and the concept is there. It takes a tremendous amount of manpower to reschedule thousands of people to new flights, and in a couple of years, we'll just be able to do that through AI and machine learning. And that'll be connected to messaging. The Messenger bot that you talk to will be able to rebook you onto a new flight. It won't take a human being to have to do that for you. And that's just working with big data, and it's much more efficient than having people do it for you. So there's an expectation there that's changed. It's a big opportunity, and we're going to work on a couple of products that we hope will help businesses to play a useful role in the messaging space. And just a couple of those are to help people drive awareness, to enable transactions. This has already been tested in a few markets where, with payment partners that we have in those markets, you can essentially complete purchase in Messenger. You don't have to leave the app to go to an external website and complete that purchase. The most relevant one at the moment is to provide support. And then the one that we're also working on is tools to help you acquire customers, because they spend so much time in these apps. It's a place where you really want to be able to engage with them. So Messenger for Business is open. There's a lot of things that you can test. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with the API. WhatsApp Business is being tested at a small scale right now in Q1. And in the future, we're going to do a lot more with Instagram Direct as well. So the next one is Stories. And this is actually a big shift that at Facebook we are taking extremely seriously. We don't take credit for inventing the format, but we love it and we embrace it. And the Instagram team, I think, has done a really fantastic job of taking it really far. But what is Stories? And why is it important? Actually, we see it as being the next consumer shift. If we think about the shifts that happened before this, from desktop to mobile, from television to mobile video, we see the next big shift being feed to Stories. Stories is the fastest growing product that any Facebook family of apps has ever built. More and more people are using it every day, and it's kind of scary how fast it's evolving. So consumers are all over it. It started with a lot of primarily younger people. Now we're seeing just people of all generations embracing Stories. And it's a platform now that we've launched across the entire family of apps. You can have a story on Facebook. You can have a story on WhatsApp, Messenger, and Instagram. For those of you who don't know what Stories are, they are basically full-screen updates that last for 24 hours, and then they disappear. They're incredibly creative. You have a lot of tools and resources at your disposal to make them fun and engaging. But the one thing that they are also always is authentic. And being authentic is a big challenge when you're a business and you want to come into this space. And we understand that. So you're going to be hearing a lot about Stories from, at least from us, over the coming months, because we see it as being such a fundamental shift. How do people engage with Stories? When they post a story, 40% of the time it's a video. When it's a video, 60% of the time it's sound on. So really, the expectation is that there can be sound. It's fine. And when somebody has engaged with the story, 1 in 5 of those engagements actually turns into a direct message to that person or to that brand. There are some advertisers that have already gotten started with Stories. This is ASOS. H&M in Sweden is doing an absolutely fantastic job on Stories. And they make it feel really authentic, and they really know how to play in that space. The last part I want to talk about today is about actually going global and taking your business internationally. And before I start, I want to highlight a case that we launched with Mapiful. For those of you who don't know Mapiful, it's actually a business that was started here in Gothenburg by 4 friends. It's an incredibly cool business. It's a pretty simple idea, but those are often the ones that work the best. It's basically the concept of is if you take a trip, or if you want to create a memento from a place that's very near and dear to your heart, you go to mapiful.com, you just search the location, and then they will create a beautiful map which you can customize. It'll be sent to you as a print, and you can put it in a frame, and it then just becomes a piece of art on your wall. It's a great business. They are one of the early adopters of basically saying, hey, let's send this business internationally, and let's leverage some of Facebook's tools to try to find audiences all over the world. So I'm going to run through a couple of the things that they leverage that many other businesses are leveraging as well. The first one is incredibly straightforward and easy. It's the fact that when you start a campaign, you can choose to go worldwide, regional, or single country. It's just an option that already exists. And a lot of businesses don't choose to do that. And the reasons are often, of course, that they need to establish some sort of links in that country before they do it. But other businesses don't realize how easy it already is, and that's a gap that we need to try to close. So you have targeting options that include multi-country, regional, worldwide. You can choose to target specific trade zones like NAFTA or the European Free Trade Zone. And it's incredibly easy to get started. The next level of that is multi-city targeting, where you can target based on population size. Let's say you want to launch your business into only the capital cities of Scandinavia. You can basically choose all of those capitals. And if it works really well, you save it, and then the next time it's just way easier to create your next campaign. The most powerful new tool that we built in helping businesses go international was a product that was called International Lookalikes, and we now just call it Lookalikes. Lookalike started its life a couple of years ago, and it's a product that basically uses our customers' valuable data, like email addresses or pixel conversion data or phone numbers, to basically, in a hashed and privacy-safe way, match with people that are on Facebook. You take that seed audience, and then you can create a campaign on Facebook where Facebook will try to find people that look like your best customers. Previously, you could only do this on a national level, so for example, for Sweden, but now you can do this wherever in the world. So if you have a list of these are my 1,000 or 100 or 50 best customers that I have, you can match them and find similar profile customers anywhere in the world. And it's an incredibly good way to get started if you're thinking about expansion into new markets. The other piece that we're working really hard on is to make all of this easier and automated. One of the things that we started doing last year was matching the language of your ads to the language of the people using Facebook. So if you created a campaign where you had 3 languages, our ad campaign system would essentially just spread it out to anybody that we see speak that language, and the campaign will optimize amongst them. Because you want to get the most value from the person no matter where they are in whichever country. The next step of this will be, and hopefully in the near future, that all you'll have to do is create one ad in one language, and we will auto-translate that and run it across any of the countries that you select and where you may be able to ship and have payment providers for. This is all going to be made possible by machine learning. It's something that is being tested at the moment, but I can imagine that it'll be a tremendous relief because we get a lot of questions from our customers in terms of how do we use translation and how do we get our ads translated if we want to go into 50 new markets and we know that local ads perform really well in local countries. So the role of automation here is incredibly important in everything from campaign creation to optimization, but also to things like translation and taking your business international. That was my last slide. I want to thank you very much for listening. I'm going to be around, so if anybody has any questions about any of the content, feel free to tap me on the shoulder. Thank you so much.
Tack så mycket.
Tack.
Jag har fråga direkt. Du har ju gett oss en massa tips på hur vi kan använda både era plattformar och hur vi kan tänka. Men om vi ska ta det här på svenska nu då?
Ja.
Så att vi verkligen förstår. Nej, ska jag bara. Om man nu som bolag i Sverige, som vi hörde inledningsvis och som jag började med, så håller vi oss gärna inom Sveriges gränser.
Ja.
Så hur ska man approchera det mobila för att växa och inte se det som en jätte?
Det är bara att testa. Det låter väldigt enkelt, men verktygen finns redan. De är tillgången till alla som vill testa. Och de kunderna som vi har som har sett väldigt mycket success med det här, de har helt enkelt testat sig fram till de resultaten som de ser. Så de har börjat tänka internationellt och sen bara kört.
Inte svårare än så?
Nej, inte svårare än så. Det finns såklart utmaningar. Jag tror att en är ju att översätta annonserna.
För här har vi det här med språket som vi hanterar här nu. Ja. Ska vi då ändra all vår kommunikation, även den vi har i Sverige, till engelska? Eller hur ska vi tänka där?
Nej,
för det finns ju de som kör enbart på engelska även i Sverige.
Jo, men jag tror samtidigt det funkar inte lika bra att köra en engelska annons i Frankrike till exempel. Man måste lokalisera på det sättet. Så det är viktigt.
Och då blir det mer jobb?
Absolut, det blir lite mer jobb. Ja. Men vi säger alltid att hålla det enkelt också. Att inte ha för mycket text. Att ha bra bilder. För det är det som många personer fokuserar på. Folk tycker inte om att läsa text. De kollar hellre på en video eller ser på en bild. Ja.
Och inte för långa videos?
Nej, inte för långa videos.
Hur långa ska de vara?
De ska vara 10-15 sekunder.
Då hinner man ju inte säga något.
Man kan loopa dem.
Ja.
Ja.
Det är nya tankesätt. Helt klart. Om du tittar trendmässigt framåt, vad tror du kommer att hända i det här landet vi befinner oss i? Kommer vi kunna adaptera det här?
Ja, jag tror det. Det blir också mycket lättare att jobba med de här verktygen som inte bara vi håller på att bygga, men många andra bolag. Så det kommer flera partners, det kommer flera företag som kan hjälpa med allt det här. Så allting kommer att förenklas. Men det finns också mycket mer möjligheter också i framtiden.
Testa, förenkla.
Mycket testa. Ja, absolut.
Och våga.
Ja.
Stort tack Henrik. Som tack för detta så får du en gåva, eller inte du, vi kommer ge en gåva till Hand in Hand för att öka entreprenörskapet i fattiga länder.
Roligt.
Stort tack för att du kom. En varm applåd. Henrik van den Boom.